Last time you were in the class where I did it in the garden. And then I introduced a somewhat new approach to the figure eight, because what happened with the figure eight is that it encourages a lot of hip movement, and then it also encourages, say, shifting weight, which is very good when we want to move, right? But it's actually this core movement is not easy to if you want to move the spine, because it just turned into just a twisting movement. There's not much of anything else. So so if we analyze this movement from the point of spine, that of course it has the twisting movement, but because of this going back, this shifting weight back and forth, it's almost like walking. You see, when you're walking, you're going forward. The spine goes through a spinal forward bend and back bend. So when you are shifting, when you shift the weight, it also does this. So there are actually two pairs of movement that are mainly in this figure eight movement. The one is the twisting, the spinal rotation to the right and to the left, and also the spinal flexion and extension. And if we will compare this to the other figure eight, which is the reverse direction, and this actually is much more clear that it involves the twisting and sideway bending, right? This one is twisting, is sideway bending, twisting, sideway bending, and twisting. Because sideway bending, if you notice, that it itself already includes some sort of spinal rotation. Like if you were side bend the body, the more you side bend it, you tend to go into a twisting to the opposite side, right? So I'm sideway bending my right side, and the more I sideway bending, it's going to, if I allow the rest of the body to just go with this movement, and then eventually it's gonna get me to turn, to rotate to the left side. And this is much easier to observe. But the forward bend and back bend in the first figure eight is not so easy. So I kind of use this as a kind of take-off point. We will begin with the natural movement, right? And then we establish this forward bend and back bend, and then we add the twisting. So we just extend the spine, and then twist it to the right, and the forward bend, expand the spine, forward bend, and while the body is doing this, right? So you have extend and then flex, extend, flex, extend, flex. And then you see that as you are doing this, the core is actually doing a figure eight. Because although this figure eight, we say this is called sort of a horizontal figure eight, as if you can draw this figure eight on the floor, right? But this is for the in terms of this movement. But the spine is upright, is a vertical structure. So what it does to the spine is actually it's going through a forward bend and back bend and twisting. So now we have several ways to do this movement. One is simply to work with the joint, right? For example, focus on the ankles is very good, because You awaken the ankles. You also warm your ankles up, which is very important when you want to exercise, right? The ankles need to, to warm up. So this way, it helps with it's like a warm up, and this is why in yoga synergy, the nerve tension in the first movement, it actually includes lifting the heels up, right? Bending the knees, and then so this is actually warming up all the major joint complexes. And then we can also shift the focus to the hips, which basically involve shifting the weight. The more you move the hips, the more you want to actually shift the weight. This way you can protect the knees. And then now we have this to approach with the spine. And of course, there's a lot that we can do with the shoulders, and then elbows, wrists, fingers, and then we can bring them all together. This is all kind of from the anatomical or musculoskeletal approach, right? But then we have also an energetic approach, right? We take the Master Young's the calligraphy house, which is this, and then draw the energy up and so on. And then there is also if we can also do this movement in the it's like if I'm drawing on a blackboard in front of me, so I will be doing this movement, right? So you can see that this movement, that my hands is drawing figure 8, right? So if you look at it, when I finish this figure 8, finish this loop, this is a circle, right? And then this one take over, right? So if of course both arms are actually doing figure 8, right? So this arm, that's why when we want to do this movement on one side only, this way we can really make the lower loop bigger. Otherwise, you see, this one I have this loop bigger, but this one is very small. This one is very small, and then so if we don't look at those small ones, we see that the two big loop is doing this. So which means I can do it like this. If you observe my hands, I'm actually drawing figure 8, right? But with both hands, you see. So this encourages this core movement and also this core movement. So you see this? So if I do it just on one side, it's this, and the other side is this. So what you will come to when you practice this core movement is that you look at what the hands or shoulders are doing. You look at what this is happening, and you see that this is exactly what the core should do. It will take me a long time, or I don't know. I probably will not come up with this idea to move the core this way, right? But because of this movement, I realized this is what the core is supposed to do. And then you try to do it without the arms, like what Simon does. Sometimes, for example, he will do this movement, right? See, this is open chain exercise. This is open chain exercise. So you see that there's a lot of movement of the arms, but of course, since you can also do it, include the core. But then I can do this quite easily without the core. See, my spine is not moving at all. I'm just doing a shoulder movement, right? But if I do this as a closed chain exercise, which means if I put my hands on the floor, right, and then you have to do this, right, because this is this. You see my spine. It's the same exercise. And what I'm doing, this is as if I'm doing, say, a kneeling plank or downward facing dog. So I turn this movement into a closed chain exercise. So now my arms cannot move anymore. They cannot do this. And then instead, you see a lot of core movement. But we don't need to wait until we're doing a closed chain exercise, because closed chain exercises are not always accessible. Imagine you put someone on the floor, and then to have them do a kneeling plank. Not to say plank, just to do kneeling plank. For some people, it's already quite hard. Not to mention you put them into kneeling plank or downward facing dog. And it's not always accessible. But then you can already, just to watch what the hands are doing, and you begin to see that, okay, so this is what my core is supposed to be doing. And you try to move it that way. And at the end, I think whether or not you're able to move the core independently without this arm movement, to me, it doesn't really matter. I mean, movement is a movement. We don't need to be, it doesn't need to go into, the core need to be able to train in such a way that it can move independently without the arms. I mean, it's nice that it's a technique. To me, it's a technique, and it's more important that you actually move, right? And it's not wrong to be able to move the core and involve the rest of the body. Why not? And then you use the rest of the body to actually explore new core movement, right? The arms can actually swing much easier in all directions, in all different angles. And then you begin to see that, okay, so now the arms are doing this, right? So how can I use this and then to educate the core more? You get my point? Right, so what I'm saying that you can take this and then build your class or your practice, but I feel that it is almost it's not going to be enough when you just explain people. So you have forward bend here, you have a back bend here with the spine. People will get the idea, but they cannot do it. They cannot do it unless they have a solid foundation of spinal movement exercise. So this is why that almost in every class that I do, at some point I will include spinal movement. Because spinal movement is a foundation of it's basic, it's the most basic technique that people know how to move the spine. Because this is actually the main problem. It's moving the spine. And if you want to wait until, I mean, they will slowly learn a little bit here and there the spinal movement by doing figure eight. It's going to take a long time, and they will not develop enough sensitivity to do a proper forward bend and back bend. They will move like a stick, because at the moment it's a stick. You want to turn the stick into something that is not. It will take a focused effort. So you will have to just take it in,
On myself that I feel sticky, and the spinal movement helped me because it's very clear the sensation, the feeling that you have moving your spine. So it's clear sensation that you have on your spine. Very helpful. Yes.
Right. Yes. So so this is why that you will for example, I will. This is one reason it's kind of hard to, when you think about to just teach a group of people who you never met, and then what do you want to give them, right? So you can focus on the figure 8, but then you want to find some ways that so they can get something. Because to teach them figure 8 and teach them spinal movement in one class, to me, is too much. It might be too much. So you can. What I do with my students is that I, like every month, once a month or 5 weeks, I will come back and teach spinal movement again, because people will forget some of the details, and then the rest of the time you can. But first, the first is you already taught it. You already taught it, and then you do other things, and then you can come back to spinal movement. Every few weeks. I think the more I practice, the more I feel that this spinal movement is the foundation, because you want to move the spine, you want to move the core. You move the core is really the first thing that will give you the most benefit, right? So you, whether you want to do vinyasa or you want to do any movement, you want to make sure that the core, the spine, is able to move, and then they can get the most. Otherwise, they can feel that they are moving a lot in all that, but the spine actually didn't get to move very much, and they might end up actually moving the knees too much. Moving the study of the joint movement is also the study of associative joint movement. Means the fact that one joint movement will create movement on the neighboring joint as well, and this is basically how you eventually find a way to say move the elbows from the core, because then because you already figured out the connection between the elbow movement and the shoulder movement, and the shoulder movement with the spinal movement. Once this is figured out, and you know that the core is basically the base of spine, right? We say the core is L4 and 5 is where the spine where the movement start. The core is slightly lower, but then the first thing you do with the core is basically the L5 and S1, right? And it's somewhere here. The navel is L4 and 5, right? So the next is basically the L5 and S1. So you're starting actually with manipulating the hips, or sort of, because that part of the spine you cannot move independently. You have to move it with the hips, right? So and then this way your hips also begin to move. So the core movement initiate the spine and the hips very easily. There's also relaxation that helps a lot. Actually, surprisingly, relaxation helps with the stability, because when the body is so tense up, it's like you are holding. You're trying to balance a solid structure, and when it tilts, right? But then when this solid structure is no longer just one piece of rock, but many movable places, like in some countries, for example, actually these days probably when they build scrapers, they have devised this structure that is actually movable. It moves, so when there's earthquake, it actually prevented the building from collapsing because it's able to move. It's like bamboo, you see. So relaxation actually helps with stability. For example, if you relax the pelvic floor, it actually helps you to balance better. In some cases, not all.